All right, welcome back to another video in the login registration system. In this chapter, we're putting it all together and kind of taking everything we've learned up until this point and building with procedural PHP a login registration system. Now, this is a very simple system. We could do more complex things, but I think it's just a small project that we can use as primarily just as an excuse to take everything we've learned and make something out of it. I think that's the best way to learn. So please comment, like, subscribe if you like these videos. Let me know what you've learned so far, and if this is helping you out, I'd love to hear about that. All right, so let me switch over to my screen, and let's just make sure our server is up and running with sudo opt lamp examp start. And for me, mine is already running because I just got done shooting the video from the last video, because I shoot a bunch of these in a row, or as many as I can stand to shoot in a row. Probably going to get 4 or 5 in today. But here we go. So that is running already. So let's go ahead. This can be a pretty quick video, I think. I know the last one was a little long, but what we're going to do is, remember in our login page, if the user was not verified, we redirected them to the Resend Vericode page. We haven't actually created that page yet, so we're going to go ahead and create that page now, so that will be one less 404 in our application. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new file, and we called that Resend Vericode.php, and this page is going to be very similar to a lot of the other pages. In fact, we'll just go ahead and set some of it up. So we're going to open some PHP tags, and then we'll include our head.php file. The next thing that we're going to do is set up our errors array. So that's just an empty array. And then we're going to set up a post that will also be an empty array. The next thing we'll do is we'll say if $_post, then that's going to mean that they have submitted a form. And right there, what we're going to do is go ahead and set up post and clean our form input with the clean post. And we're going to pass in the $_post. Then what we'll do is we'll do our form validation. Okay, and then outside of this if statement here, we want to do our HTML for our, well, we need to close our PHP tags, okay? And then we'll skip down a few lines, and now let's go ahead and just do a PHP include, and we'll include the head, or I'm sorry, the foot.php. Okay, and inside of that, we're going to do our HTML for our page. Okay, so what we'll do first is, let's go ahead and do an H2, and we're going to say resend verification email. It would help if I could type. I'm a horrible typer. All right, and then what we'll do is inside of this paragraph tag, you must verify your account before logging in. Please check your inbox and spam folder. So we're just giving them a little bit of instructions here, and then we'll give them one more paragraph underneath that. So we'll do another paragraph, and we'll say if you did not receive the verification email, you may request a new verification email below. Okay, that's just giving the user a little bit. You can, if you don't like my wording on that, you can change that if you want. Then the next thing that we want to do here is in our PHP tags, we're going to open some PHP tags, and we're just going to display errors, and we're going to pass in our errors array that we created at the top of the page here. So we're going to pass that into here. The next thing that we want to do, and you guys can see that this looks very, very similar to everything else, but we're going to create a form, and the action is going to, let's see, we're going to send it back to the same page. So resend vericode.php. We're going to give it a method equal to post. And then inside of our form, we'll do all of our inputs. Here though, we're only going to need one input. So let's create our div with our form group class. And inside of that, we're going to have a label. And this will be for our email field, and we'll even label that as email. The next thing we'll do is do some inputs here. So an input type equals text. We could actually use type equals email, but we won't do that. Name is going to be equal to email. ID will be equal to email. And the value, we could leave that empty, or we could say, we could use our echo statement here, and we could echo out our isSet else. And then in here we can pass in our post array and look for email, but you have to spell that correctly. Else we're just going to pass in an empty string. Okay, but we need to close the PHP tags there. The next thing we'll do is go ahead and give this a placeholder, and we'll make that equal to email, and then we'll close our tag there. Now this doesn't fit on one line here, so what I'm going to do is just right here on this value, I'm going to break this down to the next line like this. Just so that it's a little easier to read and it doesn't go off my screen for you guys. All right, so that is the only field that we're going to need here. Whoops. And then outside of that form group, let's create another, let me just scroll up a little bit, create another div, and we'll do this a class of button wrapper. And inside of here, we're going to have two buttons. The first one is just going to be a link, so do an a tag with an href equal to login.php, and let's give this a class equal to button space button secondary, so that'll give it two classes, and we're just going to put inside of that cancel. So this is going to create a cancel button on the form, which will take them to the login.php page. The next thing we'll do is we'll do an input. This is a different way of doing this. So the type on this is going to be submit. Now if you use an input with a type of submit, and it's going to submit the form. That's what that does, okay? So I just wanted to show you a little bit different way to do that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to give this a class. We'll give it a couple classes, so it'll be button primary, and then the value will actually be the text that is on the button. So the value here is, we'll just type in resend verification email. All right. I believe that's all the HTML that we need on this page. So let's go ahead now and try this. Let's go back to our database, and on your row here, change verified back to 0. And then go to the login registration page and log in using the correct credentials, and it should forward us to that page. All right, so here we go. It did forward us to that page, and it says, resend verification email. You must verify your account before logging in. So these are those two paragraph tags. And then we had this email field, and then just resend verification email. Now, one thing is that this is going to be fairly easy for us, because we have already done all the logic that we need to send this verification thing. So if you look in the functions.php, we have this send varicode function already here. And so we don't need to rewrite this function or this functionality. We can simply just use it. So this is going to be a really, really easy logic. So let's go back to our resend varicode, and up here we need to do our validation first. And so what we'll do here is, let's just create a variable called email, and we'll just set that equal to post email. Okay, we don't need to do anything too crazy there. So then what we can do is just, we only have one field, so we don't need to do the whole for each thing. We can just check if it's empty. So if empty email, then we want to add to our errors array an error, and that error will just be that user, we'll put email is required. Got a little ahead of myself. So that's checking that they did fill something in, and this will just tell them that the email is required. The next thing that I can do is if the errors array is still empty, we'll say if empty errors. Then we're going to do another check, and what we're going to do here is try to find the user by the email address to make sure that they're a valid user. So we'll just create an SQL statement here, and we're just going to say select star from our users table where email is equal to, and we're going to bind that. Remember, we don't want to trust any sort of user deal, and we'll set up our binds array here. And this is just going to be an array with a single element in the array, and that will be our email, just like that. The next thing that we do is set up our result. So we're going to fire off our query function that we created, and that takes our SQL statement and our binds as a second parameter. And then we're going to set up our user variable, and we'll just use MySql fetch associative array from the result. Okay, so this now will be our user by this email address. So what we can do now is we can say, hey, if there isn't a user, so if we didn't find a user by that email address, if there's not a user, then we can add to our errors array, and we could say that user does not exist. Okay. Else, we can do an else statement here. Else, we're going to send the verification. So what we'll do here, let me check that function and see what we actually returned here. Okay, so we returned a Boolean, so it'll be a send email. If the email is successful, it'll come back true. So it's going to be true or false. So we'll call this sent. And we're going to set that equal to our function. So it was send varicode, and the only thing that we had to pass into varicode is our email. Okay, so then we can check if sent, then we want to redirect them to, we'll use our redirect function, and we'll redirect them to login.php. All right, I think that's all we need to do. So we're going to go ahead and test this, make sure we don't have any errors here. So it's only like 50 lines of code for this whole page. And we didn't even have to rewrite, we didn't have to write any new logic. We actually had, we had this send varicode because we used that earlier on during the registration process. So that's the beauty of using functions and things like that, so you don't have to repeat code. One thing we could do, which I haven't done, but we could actually take, because we do this a lot now where we're looking for our user by the email, and we could write a function called find user by email, and then it just returns this user. So we wouldn't have to type out this every time. We could actually just use that function. I don't think we'll do that right now, but that would be a good refactor to clean up the code and make it a little more dry. And dry is just an acronym. It just means do not repeat yourself. Okay. All right. So now that we've done that, let's test that. So we need to make sure our email server is up and running. So if you remember, we can type in tilde/go/ben/mailhog with a capital M and capital H. And if you do that correctly, it says that it is serving it on port 1025, and it is serving it we could check out the user interface of that on port 8025. So if we go back now to a browser and open a new window, if you just type in localhost, and then to go to the port, you just use a colon, and then we're going to go to 8025. This opens up Mailhog. So now what we can do is we can try to resend this verification email. So the first thing I'm going to do is put an email that doesn't exist in here and click resend verification email. Okay, now it says that user doesn't exist, which I expected. So now I'm going to put in a user that does exist and click resend verification email. So now it resends them and then redirects it to the login screen. And if I look back here in Mailhog, it says, hey, please verify your account. So if I look at this, it gives me another link. So I'm going to actually right click on that because Mailhog is a little messed up right now, but it should show this as an HTML email, and it will in real life on a real server. But I'm just going to right click this and I'm going to say open in new tab. And now that I've done that, it says that my account has been verified. Please log in. So if I click log in, it takes me here. And now I should be able to put in my credentials again, and instead of being redirected to that page, it should actually log me in, which it does. It takes me to the index. Okay, so now just to double check it, let's go back to the database and refresh this, and just make sure that verified is set back to 1. And if it is, you are good to go. You have completed the resend verification. If you didn't and you had some errors, just try to dig through them. Look through my code again, make sure you have exactly everything that I have, and you should be good. So I'll just kind of scroll this slowly. You can pause it, rewind it, whatever you need to do to make that work. Also, here is the functions.php, the send vericode function if you want to look at that again. That's it. All right. Well, I'll see you guys in the next video. I hope you're having fun. Please comment, like, subscribe. Let me know what you've learned. Let me know what you're excited about, and let me know what questions you have. I will see you in the next video.